In 1972, a crack commando unit was sent to prison by a military court for a crime they didn't commit. These men promptly escaped from a maximum security stockade to the Los Angeles underground. Today, still wanted by the government, they Wait, hang on, I've got the wrong intro here. Let me try this again. In 1983, the A-Team debuted on the NBC television network. The show revolved around the members of a US Army Special Forces unit that were on the run, having escaped prison after being committed for a crime they didn't commit. Surviving as mercenaries for hire, they take on the toughest jobs that no one else will. The show was a massive hit when it debuted, retaining a large chunk of audience viewership until declining ratings led to its cancellation during its 5th season. Nevertheless, the A-Team remains an iconic franchise thanks to its memorable intro and TV theme, catchphrases,
I love it when a plan comes together,
and propelling Mr. T to a household name. As such, the franchise moved into books, comics, and yes, video games. So let's get on the jazz and take a look at them. If you have a problem, if no one else can help you, and if you can find them, maybe you can play the games licensed on the A-Team. The A-Team was created by Frank Lupo and Stephen Cannell for the NBC network. Cannell had been fired from ABC after failing to write a hit show for the network, although did have marginal success in writing for shows such as The Rockford Files and The Greatest American Hero. The A-Team was, from the first episode, a huge hit. The team consisted of plucky leader John Hannibal Smith, smooth talker Templeton Faceman Peck, team pilot Howling Mad Murdoch, and strongman B.A. Baracus. They would be joined by a number of supporting cast, usually female, over the years, but the focus was always on the 4 aforementioned team members. The show revolved around the team completing a mission such as rescuing hostages, stopping outlaws terrorizing a town, or something of the sort. In a sense, the show is basically Scooby-Doo with guns, as a team drive around in their van, undertaking the mystery or mission of the week, while uttering their oft-used catchphrases.
I love it when a plan comes together.
What you doing, sucker?
The A-Team, however, do blow up significantly more military jeeps than Mystery Inc. ever did. Despite their penchant for explosives and gunfire, the A-Team never actually kills anyone. You always see someone emerging from the wreckage of a vehicle to show they survive, and no one is ever injured beyond being scraped by a bullet. I suppose the show is meant to be a family show of sorts, so I had to keep the violence down, but yeah, the more you think about it, the more like Scooby-Doo this show becomes. The first A-Team video game is one that was never actually released. The A-Team was developed in 1984 for the Atari 2600. In this game, you play as B.A. Baracus, or his disembodied head anyway, as you attempt to stop a nuclear weapons launch across 3 stages. In the first stage, you move left and right and just shoot anything that moves, while avoid getting shot yourself. Murdoch's head also wanders about this stage, which you can also shoot with no consequence. The game highlights your mission is to save Murdoch at the beginning, so I'm not really sure what actually is the aim here. Eventually, you move on to the second level, where you'll be moving around the screen shooting a man in green, who is perhaps Colonel Decker, the A-Team's recurring nemesis in the TV show, who is always trying to capture them. This level makes even less sense than the first. You shoot Decker not to hurt him, but to deflect your bullets off of him and onto a conveyor belt at the bottom to destroy supplies as the time runs down. The objective seems to be to just survive until the timer reaches 0, as it seems it simply doesn't matter how many supplies you destroy. You proceed to the third level then, where you are simply tasked with shooting a helicopter once. That's it. I don't know how BA is flying around like this either. We all know how BA feels about flying.
I ain't going no airport.
Anyway, after one hit, the helicopter is destroyed and you move on proper to the second level, which is the start of the game, and so the game presumably loops forever. Until you die anyway, when you get a brief snippet of the A-Team theme. There's really not a lot to this game, as you can probably tell. The levels have a bit of variety, but being only 3 levels that last a minute at most, that variety will quickly be exhausted. Even though the game was unreleased, it seems to be fairly complete. Maybe there's some missing mechanics in the first and second levels, but other than that it seems to work without issue. It also should be noted that this game is based on another cancelled game called Saboteur. The game was shelved and probably just reskinned as an A-Team game to capitalise on the show's popularity. But the fact that the A-Team game got cancelled as well is a bit odd, but perhaps not that great of a loss. The game is short, uninspiring, and fails to stand out from other games in the Atari 2600 library. The next game, also called the A-Team, was released for the Commodore 64 in 1985. As soon as you boot it up, you're treated to the A-Team logo on the title screen and that epic theme, that intro that you all know and love. Guys, you had one job to just put in one of the most iconic and familiar TV themes ever. Oh, you definitely put in an iconic theme, alright, just for the completely wrong franchise. What is the decision-making process to using the Star Wars theme in an A-Team game? How did you reach that conclusion? Okay, if your mind didn't lose its ability to process rational decisions after that, you can press fire to start the game proper, to present yourself with another affront to your senses. The gameplay has you not playing as any of the iconic characters of the A-Team, but just a nameless green guy. You are apparently tasked with actually stopping the A-Team as their disembodied heads float across the top of the screen. Why are they disembodied heads again? Was there an aversion to giving the A-Team bodies in these games? Each member of the A-Team behaves in a slightly different way. Murdoch is the easiest to defeat, as he moves left to right and back slowly. Face moves similarly, just a lot faster. Hannibal also moves across the screen, but can also phase in and out of existence. You know, just like he could on the show. And BA teleports randomly across the top of the screen, again emulating his famous ability to bend time and space to his will. If you manage to shoot every member of the A-Team enough to defeat them, you beat the level and start again. There is a level counter, but as far as I can tell, every level is exactly the same, without increasing difficulty or anything. This barely qualifies as a game. Gameplay is almost non-existent, there's no variety, and again, you don't actually play as the A-Team. The first game that appeared after the show's cancellation was in 1989. Released only in Spanish, El Equipo A, that's Spanish for the A-Team, you'll be surprised to hear, was released for MS-DOS, Amstrad CPC, ZX Spectrum, and MSX platforms in 1989. This one is an on-rails first-person shooter, as you undertake one of the two missions available in the game. In the first, you'll be hunting down terrorists in a village situated in the desert of Morania. The second has you attacking a military base in the fictional country of Terrania, in order to stop them preparing an invasion of neighbouring countries. The aim of the game is to basically kill everyone and destroy every vehicle. In the desert stage, this is 150 people and 20 vehicles, whereas in the Terrania stage, it is 200 people and 30 vehicles. Thus, the A-Team has the task of essentially wiping out a small army. As the screen scrolls automatically, you will need to basically shoot everything you see. Well, apart from if another member of the A-Team just happens to run on screen to mess with you. Things are made difficult by your cursor moving so slowly across the screen, leading to you taking a fair amount of damage before you can even set your sights on an enemy. Add to this the limited ammunition, requiring you to be on the lookout for more as the level progresses, and you've got a fairly challenging game. You can pick up bombs, which will kill everything on screen, but this will also destroy all pickups, so again, you need to be careful with what you're doing. It's a very basic game with not a lot of substance behind it. Most importantly, it's a poor copy of the 1987 arcade game Operation Wolf, which was also ported to home consoles, and which is a lot better than the A-Team's poor imitation. The different versions of El Equipo A are more or less the same, apart from the graphical differences between each system. The cursor movement is maybe slightly smoother on the Amstrad and DOS versions, but other than that you're getting the same limited experience across all versions. If you want to count Tiger LCD games, as I often do in these retrospectives, then you can't miss out on the A-Team game. Wow, I mean, Look at this thing. Look at Mr. T staring right at you, pitying the fool that has to play this licensed garbage. The game consists of having you play as B.A. Baracus, moving around the screen and stopping a motorcycle gang from stealing money bags and fuel. You move about by jumping onto a motorbike ridden across the screen by Murdoch, or a sports car driven by Face, because apparently B.A. cannot move by himself. Oh, and Hannibal just stands at the bottom doing nothing, presumably supervising like any good leader. It's difficult to describe what's actually supposed to be going on here, as the game is extremely rare, so I can't actually try for myself, but you can imagine it's going to be fairly bare bones and unfun to play just like every other LCD game Tiger put out. Another cancelled A-Team game was planned for release on the Sega Master System. Almost nothing about this game is known apart from a prototype, which contains only a sound test featuring the game's music and sound effects, apparently made sometime in 1992. The music has a pretty good rendition of the main theme, and the soundtrack was made by prolific 8-bit music composer Duran Tell. Based on the music and the name of the files, we can guess that there would have been a map screen which would take you to one of 4 levels: Savannah, Military, Jungle, or River. That is, unfortunately, all we can glean from the music. It does seem that all of the music is complete, unless they were planning to add more levels, so it stands to reason the game must have developed to some degree of completion as well. However, no part of the game has, at present, been leaked or released. The next big moment in the A-Team franchise was the 2010 film remake, rebooting the story in a modern setting. The film is okay. Did it need to be made? No. Is it bad? Also no. It's just okay. Credit should go, however, to Liam Neeson, who plays a pretty good Hannibal. But also, perhaps surprisingly, you may think that no one could play the role of B.A. Baracus other than Mr. T, but Quinton Jackson really gives a solid performance, while also adding in his own edge, which I would have said was near impossible for such an iconic character as B.A. Anyway, riding on the back of this film, a mobile game, unsurprisingly called The A-Team again, was released in 2010. It is a top-down shooter in which you must play as the A-Team and shoot your way through a number of missions loosely based around the story of stopping a rogue general, which has nothing to do with the plot of the film. You can swap between the different members of the A-Team, each of whom have different abilities. Hannibal is the standard character, Face can throw grenades at enemies out of reach, an ability which is often useless, and BA can punch enemies that like to get a bit too close. You can also call Murdoch in his helicopter to fire missiles and clear groups of enemies, if you pick up the missiles scattered throughout the levels. It's a simple game that you can get through in about 2 hours, but it plays fairly well, although hampered by a lack of variety in the levels, which are either a jungle or desert town, and somewhat iffy controls. In terms of cameos in other games, the iconic A-Team van was purchasable in the mobile game Smash Bandits, the aim in which is to outrun police chasing you and to just generally destroy everything in your way. The most significant A-Team feature in other games though is in LEGO Dimensions, the crossover LEGO game released in 2015, which allowed you to unlock characters and levels in-game by purchasing special LEGO figures for use with the game's unique toypad peripheral. Using the A-Team figures unlocks B.A. Baracus as a playable character, alongside the A-Team van as a vehicle. You also gain access to the A-Team world, which has you roaming Los Angeles helping out people in need, including the other members of the A-Team, and encountering other characters from the series too. If you manage to help out all the other A-Team members, you can unlock them as playable characters as well. The whole experience is pretty good, and feels like what you would expect from an A-Team game, going around accepting missions to help people out with your squad, even if your squad consists of Batman, Gandalf, and the Doctor from Doctor Who. So there we go, that's every game based on the A-Team franchise. All in all, it's a disappointing bunch that fails to capture the essence of the franchise at all. Most of the games barely have any gameplay, or are just copies of more successful games. The A-Team DLC for LEGO Dimensions is easily the best experience overall, as 1, you can actually play as the A-Team, 2, it references the show, 3, it's actually fun to play. In terms of actual games, I suppose the A-Team mobile game would be the best, if only because it's the sole game that seems complete. The potential is easily there for a squad-based game featuring the team, but with no real prospect of that on the horizon, they'll have to continue to survive as soldiers of fortune. Thanks for checking out this video game Odyssey 4, the A-Team. If you enjoyed the video, please like it and subscribe to the channel, it really helps. If you want to see playthroughs of any of the games featured in this video, you can check out my Twitch channel, where I play through these games live on stream, or check out the VOD Archive YouTube channel. You can also support the channel on Patreon for as little as £1 per month. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you for the next Video Game Odyssey.